And I'm sorry, we're now recording on Blog TV. Merlin Miller is running for president, American Third Position Party. He's my guest today, and I was just saying two wings of the same bird, and the bird ain't a patriotic eagle that I got on my site. I think it's a global vulture. How would you running for president? And by the way, I have been in the presidential race in 1996 with Charles Collins, who was the first Republican to sign up, but who who got even less airtime than Ron Paul. Tell me, Merlin, why would you choose to do this? Why do you need to do this? And tell me about the American Third Position Party, why you chose that one instead of going along with the Ron Pauls and the Rand Pauls and the Obamas out there.
Well, I think for the most part, Clay, it's our Constitution was an incredible document, but along the way it's been corrupted, and we now have a two-party system which no longer serves the American people, and I think the vetting of candidates is done primarily by global elites, and then they use their media to promote who they want in office, and these politicians now serve global special interests rather than the American people. And it's time Americans woke up to that fact, and I think they are. I think with the conditions in the country the way they are, people are starting to ask questions now and see the need for a viable alternative. And we're not going to get it out of the Republicans and Democrats. The controls are too strong. We need new formations, new parties. We need new voices out there, and it's not easy, as you said. With an independent candidacy, it's uphill all the way because of the funding requirements, the ballot access requirements. But we've got to do what we can to try to turn the ship around. And the ATP is only a couple of years old. I was recruited really about a half a year ago to be their candidate on the presidential ticket. And it's an honor for me because these are patriots, they're nationalists who believe in America's sovereignty, who strongly believe in our Constitution and want to preserve what was great about America, our Christian heritage, the traditions of the founding fathers, and we just want to see that resurrected and not destroyed as it's been.
Well, I've been reporting on the whole New World Order thing since the attack on Waco, and trying to get to the heart of this matter. The finger of blame always points back at the international banksters, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Morgans, and the Schiffs up there. And it's almost time. They've said the Mayan calendar talks about the end of the world. It'd be nice if the end of the world was the end of the banksters' worlds, because they have really ripped off the American people to the tune, and the people of the world to the tune of trillions of dollars, and that's actually coming out now in the Libor scandal. So. We've been talking about this patriot movement. We talked about NAFTA. We talked about GATT for 20 years, and it's like nobody wanted to listen to us because the general condition of the population was still of a high enough level that most people will go, those are just extremists. Those are just right-wing, anti-tax, anti-government extremists. And we've been demonized ever since. But everything we told people over the last 20 years, racist, anti-Semites, right-wing extremists, has come true. NAFTA turned into this whole Mexican invasion that we're going through right now.
No, you're right, Clay, and I think people are starting to realize that these free trade agreements certainly are not fair to the American people. They benefit only the multinational corporations and foreign nations, and at the same time, we're losing all our jobs. We've got an invasion of illegal immigrants coming in here, yet they're justifying a war on terror when our borders are wide open for this. There's just major disconnection logic to this, and it is orchestrated by global elites, by financial elites, and I think more and more Americans are starting to come to that realization. I do largely credit Ron Paul, even though I'm not really sure what he's doing right now. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but he did open up a lot of eyes to the evils of the Federal Reserve and has made it sort of a mainstream movement now. And now with the Congress at least passing this bill yesterday on auditing the Fed, hopefully the Senate will do so and we'll get that to happen. But I think until a few years ago, I was pretty much politically correct. I didn't understand what was going on in the country, but I credit Ron Paul largely for helping the awakening. And but we need to take it from that level on and get our country back. And I'm not sure whether Ron Paul will be a factor in the future or not. I would love to have seen him fight all the way through the convention and even consider a coalition effort should he have not won at the Republican convention, which I don't think he would have. But I don't know. I hope we have some surprises at the Republican convention. If not, the American third position and hopefully other patriotic efforts move forward and do what we can to get our country back.
The Libertarian Party, I mean, I agree with one of their basic principles, and I want to get your input on this. I think that the communists basically stole our billion-dollar crop called hemp in the 30s and sent it over to Russia and sent it over to communist-controlled Russia and communist-controlled China. 10,000 products made out of it, and we got to buy it from communist China. And of course they also made it marijuana illegal, put a tax on the hemp so the farmers couldn't grow it, and then started arresting people for smoking it. As I wrote 40 years ago, I wrote a book about a country, the United States, when all laws against victimless crimes had been abolished, and we had gone down to dropped way down on the list of from number one countries that imprison their own people. It's kind of like Ayn Rand told us back in Atlas Shrugged, if you government has no control over honest citizens, so they have to make criminals out of us. If you got to be president, what would you do? What would you do about this whole drug? And by the way, my whole book, Mystery Babylon, is about George Bush as CIA director bringing all the cocaine into a little place called Mena, Arkansas.
Well, when it comes to legislation, I believe everything should be done at the lowest and most local level possible. I believe the federal government has far usurped its constitutional authority, and regards things like hemp. Our freedoms are being challenged in every which way, and I think any connection, any negative connections to hemp and marijuana are a stretch at the best, and those things should be dealt with at the local level. It's a crop that would have tremendous benefit to the American people, and as you indicated, not too many decades ago, America was totally independent. We produced what we needed here. We didn't depend on foreign imports for our survival. And we've been imprisoned by these legislative acts which have denied us the ability to be self-reliant. And we need to find ways to get those freedoms back so American people can be entrepreneurs again and be self-independent.
Well, the ninth plank on the Communist Manifesto. Now, do you have any military background, Merlin?
I did. I served in the United States Army.
I volunteered for Vietnam in 1964, and I raised my hand. I took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't believe there was any expiration date on that. But when I got out, they tried to kill me before I got over to Vietnam. I never got over to Vietnam, but when I got out, I discovered that every plank on the Communist Manifesto was intact in America today. Ninth plank being corporate farms. Eighth plank is government control of agriculture. And that kind of goes along with Obama's executive order saying, man, rural areas are we got 16% of the people that live in rural areas, and there's great potential there. So the government needs to get involved. I agree with you. I think that we need to take back our towns, our counties, and our states from the federal government by becoming activists and by becoming self-sufficient. Now, they don't want you to do that, but Merlin, we could, if you took one block and the neighbors actually worked together and the county supported them and backed them up instead of harassing them, you could put a garden in the backyard. You don't have to plow the backyard, just spread wood chips on your backyard and anything will grow. Everything will grow. And put solar on your roof and a wind generator on your chimney there, and you could generate your own power, and your home could actually pay for itself, and you would be eating healthy food, not GMO modified stuff that's trying to kill us. I mean, it actually seems, with the stories that we do, with the fluoride and the genetically modified foods and the tons of pharmaceuticals, I mean, we're a whole nation of drug addicts, from Valium to Luvox to whatever. How do we turn this around? How do we turn this around?
But, in my main, it's simplicity. You just, if I were president, one of the first things I would do is I would negate all the executive orders. I would basically reduce the size of government. We have so many agencies and bureaus now and so many czars that are not constitutionally allowed. I have no idea how we've grown to be the monster we are, but we need to reduce the size of government, get it out of people's lives, and free up the people to be pioneers again.
That's it. It's what we need to do. I mean, we could be self-sufficient. I said Obama's idea of greening America is selling the top of that mountain over there to a foreign corporation, so they can bring windmills from China, set it up on our mountain over there, and pipe it down to the electric company, and the electric company turns around and sells it to you with a little slightly increased price because you got more hands in the pocket now. Now, in New Orleans, Brad Pitt backed one neighborhood, and they put solar on the roof and a wind generator on the roof and rebuilt the neighborhood so that everybody's home was actually making them money. Why wouldn't the government want to encourage that?
Well, in my opinion, government is controlled by these elites who basically are power seekers. They want to control our lives. It's a process of enslavement. It doesn't make sense. It's evil, in my opinion. And until the American people wake up to that fact and start to take back their liberties, we're going to continue to be attacked by an insidious process. And you go back to the shipping of animals. I'm in the film industry, and most of my career, and actually did a film project called A Place to Grow, which dealt with the small organic farmers trying to survive amidst the encroachment of the big agribusiness, which of course had government subsidies, and the whole process was one of Big Brother coming in and destroying small family farms. And that's what's been going on in America. Our families are under attack. Our individual liberties are under attack. And we just need to, in every way, stand up and say enough is enough.
I've been encouraging that. Now, we've been demonized. Now, if you talk about the illegal alien, we've got an invasion, millions of illegals here. If you have an invasion going on, and you talk about that, or you try to talk about how to secure our borders, or do like Arizona did in an individual state here, we passed a law. The federal government's suing Arizona now, suing our own states to cover for these people, and if we try to talk about it, we're called a racist. Now, we just celebrated the anniversary of the Israeli attack on the USS Liberty, and if you try to talk about anything that Israel is doing to Palestinians, anything that the bankers are doing to the United States, you're called anti-Semitic. I have, when I started the militias after Waco, I started the militias around the country, and somebody blew up Oklahoma City. Maybe it was just a coincidence that the BATF had been training for a week over at White Sands Missile Range around the corner from me in New Mexico for a week before with ANFO bombs. And it was just luck that there was nobody in the building, and one of them was standing across the street and was able to call Dallas and tell them what kind of bomb blew up Oklahoma City. He didn't explain why the truck with the ANFO in it was able to blow all of that debris out from the building. But the demonization started. That's what happened to the militia movement. Now, what part of the Second Amendment don't people understand? The militia is everybody out there. Everybody that's between the ages of 18 and 45. Governor could call any of them up, couldn't he?
Sure. The whittling away of our Bill of Rights is probably the greatest threat to our future right now, and we need to stand up, and especially the First and Second Amendments. I mean, those things have got to be etched in stone. We can never give up on those. But when you talk about if you criticize the immigration invasion, or if you criticize affirmative action programs, which are clearly discriminatory, you're called a racist. If you stand up and say we should not be involved in these wars that benefit the global elites in Israel, or if we criticize Jewish ownership of the mainstream media, you're branded anti-Semitic. They unfortunately control the public discourse, and we need to find a way to stand up and say, no, we're standing for a level playing field. We're standing for the American U.S. Constitution. We want the freedoms to be able to honor and respect the Founding Fathers and their vision of our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And we need to stand up and say, you know, we need our own dialogue. We need a public discourse. And fortunately, the internet is providing that now. And it's under assault, but as long as the internet exists, we have hope for our country.
Yeah, they will try to do that. You know, it's that's why I've titled my column "This Century." It's life in the 21st century. You know, it's really changed all of the rules. You know, I've been writing professionally for a long time. As soon as I started talking about the banks or Israel or the militia or anything like that, suddenly I lost all funding. They take away all the funding. They call and threaten advertisers. And I started the Free American because I was simply outraged about what happened in Waco. I was living in Miami, sitting at my house on the canal, sitting on my boat in the Biscayne Bay, and screaming, you know, where's the Rangers? Where's the Sheriff's Department? Why are they letting this happen?
Yeah, good question. And fortunately, we do have some movements now where I think sheriffs across the country are starting to ask those questions and realize that they have the ultimate power and authority within their areas. And we've got the Oath Keeper movement now. We have a lot of things that are springing up, largely as a result of the work that you and others have been doing to wake people up to these evils. But I'm hopeful that this movement will continue to grow, and especially if hard times hit us, which they are, more and more people are going to start asking questions and realizing just what has happened to America.
Hopefully so. You know, there is an awakening, and I've said I hope 2012 is the end of the world, at least the banksters' world, because we can be self-sufficient. Now 30 years ago, the they've just kind of locked everything up here. They've taken over all of the media. But the internet has opened this up for us. And is this making a difference for you now? You're registered. The American Third Position Party. You're in. You've made how many of the states? I mean, are you? Can you compete here?
Well, you know, as far as the first time we've had a national campaign, at least we're on the board. We're already approved to be on the ballot in Colorado. We're very close now in New Jersey and here in Tennessee. There are about a dozen to 14 states that have reasonable requirements for a small independent party to get on the ballot. A lot of states make it next to impossible in terms of the costs and the amount of signatures you have to petition to get on the ballot. It's just a balance that the major parties have. But we're doing what we can to spread the word and get on the ballot as many places as we can. And the purpose is not, of course, to have any viable hopes of being able to win, but to spread the word, to grow the movement, the truth movement, and ensure our freedoms down the road. And these issues are just not talked about by your major politicians. You listen to the Democratic and Republican debates, and it's just silliness that they talk about. They don't talk about the important issues that are destroying our country. And if nothing else, if we can get the political debate to address some of these important issues, and American people are going to start to demand that as they see these problems affecting them personally. And that's our hope in growing the party. And this first national campaign is primarily to gain a degree of legitimacy. And I believe that the American Third Position will, in future election cycles, be sponsoring local candidates, you know, state candidates, representatives, and congressional representatives to the U.S. Congress and Senate. But right now we're in the building mode, a very small party. We have a couple of websites which will hopefully grow, and we can recruit new members to the party, and that's AmericanThirdPosition.com and MerlinMiller2012.com. But we are young. We're very poorly staffed right now. It's just volunteers. We don't have the funds that we really need to grow, but I think we're starting to wake people up, and hopefully more and more people will come to our rescue.
Well, I hope so. You know, it's and I've just been talking about this. The last figures I've got, so this don't hold me to these, but the Democrats had spent about $300 million on advertising. The Republicans spent about $250 million on advertising. And I started thinking about that. Let's see, where did that money go? Now, this is not the money you donated, necessarily, just all of the money you donated, but this is what they gave away in return for advertising on ABC, NBC, CNN, New York Times. They so the Republican Democratic parties turned around and handed all the money you donated back to the people that are really responsible for the situation we're in. The mainstream media is the enemy. It's why I started the Free American, because of the way they were reported. Let's say the government had to go in and kill those people. You know, they had to go in and kill them to save them from a child molester. They had to save those 17 little children from a child molester. This is what our mainstream media is doing. That's why I started the Free American. That's why I started this radio show 20-some-odd years ago. And that's why I've had presidential candidates like you on. I think we do need to turn this around. We do need to break this two-party grip. And these politicians right now and the presidents are all working for the banks, who send both both parties money.
I think when you look at the election cycles and you have a candidate that runs on a particular platform, and it's so obvious now to the American people that they indicate what they're going to do when elected. When they get in office, they do nothing of the sort. They basically perpetuate the same scheme of taking power away from the American people. And as you said earlier in the broadcast, there's not been a difference between the Republicans and Democrats. And that whole process of having career politicians who are owned before he can even viably get in the race, it's just it runs totally opposite of what the vision of the Founding Fathers were, in that we would be represented by our own people. People from our local communities could go forth and represent their communities, and then go back to their communities and work again, and be average, everyday Americans, and not be these elites which we've allowed to dominate and take over our political system. So, no, the efforts that you're doing in the alternative media are only hope, and we've got to keep growing that, and it would be nice if we had some wealthy patriots that would step forward and fund operations like yours and help to build a real alternative to the mainstream media. We need studios.
They are scared to death. I mean, you do have some so-called patriots out there that are doing well, but if you talk about Israel or you talk about Jewish control of the media, you won't appear on the Alex Jones show or the Republic Broadcasting Networks. You won't appear on there. They're pulling the strings behind the scenes with like ABC, and you just don't get to if you talk. This ain't hate. This ain't hate. I've studied history as you have. This has happened over and over again. There's never really been a time in the last 4,000 years when it's been easy to be free, has it, Merlin?
No, it's all an agenda for power, to control the people, and it's money-driven, and it's so sad to see what that's become a god today. Money and materialism has become a false god for at least the elites that tend to control everything.
We're going to... in the second half, I want to talk with you about some solutions. Now, I've been reporting on this, Merlin, for a long time, and I've been in the presidential campaigns. And actually, that almost stopped me from voting. Because every time Charles Collins got up to, we'd get to the conventions the night before, we'd put up Collins for President signs, and by the time we got up the next morning, there wasn't a Collins sign on a wall of the convention center. And every time he got up to speak, the television cameras pointed at the ground. So we're really talking about the media being a tremendous part of this. If you don't know, if nobody knows you're running, if their only source is the Free American to know that you're running, and those 3 websites that you got, which are all linked, by the way, on the Free American. And your film is linked on the Free American. We'll see that stays there. If we don't work together and outside this Republican Democratic system, we're screwed. They've got us. They really refined the art of slavery to the point the slaves don't even know they're slaves. I'm not a slave, man. I can go get in my pickup and go get a beer. How do we educate these people if every time they pick up the newspaper and turn on the television, they're being propagandized, they're being controlled, they're being programmed, and they rush right out and buy some Valium or Luvox or something, whatever the drug, the jour drug is of the day.
Yeah, the answer is, I think, media, and I'm in the media field myself, and motion pictures have always been my chosen field of interest, and as an independent filmmaker, it's next to impossible to get funding to make a motion picture, and even more difficult to get it out to the public, simply because of the distribution controls that Hollywood has over motion pictures. And if we can develop our own marketing, if we can develop our own industry as though the motion picture industry does not exist, kind of as the internet has grown and alternative media has grown, we need to form our own media and hopefully grow it to become its own mainstream media. And I think the only way that's going to happen is taking select projects and finding the ones that can resonate with the public. And the public is starting to ask questions now, and the motion picture project I'm looking at next is a very politically incorrect one because it challenges our relationship with the State of Israel and who we think are our best friends, the Israelis and their, of course, Mossad and their arms that are doing us more damage than American people have any idea. But this project is called False Flag, and it connects what happened to the USS Liberty in 1967 to the takeover of our foreign policy by a foreign nation. And of course, the global elites who those foreign nations serve as well. But if we can wake up the American people with this story, and I believe through entertainment, we've become so dumbed down, so dependent on getting our fixes, that unless we can reach out to our people with entertainment, they aren't going to take much interest in the message. But if we can incorporate our messages into something that entertains people, then I think we've got a chance of waking people up to the point where they'll start asking questions and realize there's much more to this than what simply meets the eye from the mainstream media.
Well, I agree with you 100%. You know, I've got 4 documentary films out. I've got The True Face of FEMA, and we filmed the first Homeland Security meeting back about 2002 or something like that in Albuquerque. And Colonel John Brinkerhoff is lecturing law enforcement at CNDL Labs on Kirtland Air Force Base, and he tells them in case of a single outbreak of smallpox in a major metropolitan area or a nuclear disaster or an earthquake of sufficient magnitude like along the New Madrid fault line, we'll need 400,000 well-armed, well-trained, organized, disciplined troops to control the American people because some of them just won't follow orders. Now, we'd warned what FEMA was going to become. It did become that. Homeland Security is controlled by dual citizens, people with dual citizens. And they have really become the KGB all over again because they've been pointing the finger and trying to target veterans. They've targeted Christians. They're targeting patriots. Anybody that they can. They're calling them racist, anti-Semite, calling them every name in the book. You spoke at the Freedom Palooza with the possibly one honest politician, the only one that went to jail. Yeah, no, Jim Traficant was there and gave an incredible speech on Saturday night. I heard him speak, and I've got a lot of respect for him. And of course, he paid a dear price for standing for truths. Yes, he certainly did, and he talks about he's the one man out there that's talking about Israel. What did he have to say? Well, he doesn't pull any punches, and just as you and I know from the USS Liberty, Israel's history has been full of false flags where they do deceitful things and blame it on their enemies to affect the outcome of things. And of course, they've been able to pull America around and have us support every one of their aggressions, primarily through deceitful actions. And if the American people understood the truth behind these things, they would not see Israel as our best friend. And I have no animosity to the Israeli people or the Jewish American people, but they need to start considering that America needs to put itself first. And if America would just do that, these things will right themselves in no time. And our founding fathers clearly understood that you don't have these entangling alliances with foreign entities. You know, you put America first. And that's just so important. In ancient history, this basically happened in the time of Arminius. 2,000 years ago, the Roman